This is a bronze hot list, and Hulk 181 didn't make number 1. Let's talk about it right now. We're going through it. We just finished up Modern. We did Copper last week, and now it's time to move on to some self-tanning.
Some bronzer?
Exactly.
Let's hit that SPF 15.
Oh my God, SPF 45 for me. I'm a pasty Irish guy.
That's how you get past the pasty into bronze.
Oh, no. I burn. No bronze here.
I love me some Bronze Age comics. The community loves them, some Bronze Age comics.
Well, the good thing about bronze is it's a little bit more attainable than some of these gold and silver age things that we saw. And a lot of these are on people's want lists anyway, because they're definitely just more in their wheelhouse because of movies that are coming out, because of Netflix series that are coming out, and a lot of other stuff. So this is a fantastic list.
A lot of keys are a bit more affordable from this era as well.
Especially in lower grades, yes.
Definitely. So we're referencing the Overstreet 48th edition 2018 price guide. Let's jump into it with a 4-way tie at number 10.
So at number 10 is Uncle Scrooge 179. It's a Whitman publication, and the funny thing about this, and the reason it's so scarce, and on this list actually, because everyone's probably got a question mark, like, what are you talking about? Did you just say Uncle Scrooge?
Yeah.
And why is the guy with the holiday sweater talking about Scrooge? I mean,
You got a Scrooge on your sweater, man.
it's a gnome. So for that particular book, it was only distributed in a 3-pack. So it was limited distribution already and distributed to Canada and Australia.
Right.
So this book is extremely tough, and it's towards the later part of the run. So it's just less out there.
So a lot of these Whitman books were available in the 3-packs, and you'll see these Whitman books throughout the 1970s and early 80s. They were 3 for 39 cents, 3 for 59 cents, 3 for 69 cents, and in the later years, 3 for $1.09. So if you find any of the ones that are still sealed with 3 for $1.09, you may have found one that has the Uncle Scrooge 179 in it.
Now, Uncle Scrooge 179, what is this guiding for at near mint minus in the Overstreet?
It's 1,600 it guides at.
It's crazy, man. That's a lot of money for Uncle Scrooge.
That's a big number.
I love it.
The thing that's really painful about this is you watch this Scrooge book. What year is this? 1980?
Yeah, I believe it is 1980.
Okay, so you watch a Scrooge book from 1980, but if I look at Del 4-color or any of the original Uncle Scrooge or Scrooge's Millions from back in the day, $30-$40 for
Right.
some of these nice looking books. I can't give away books from the 50s and 60s, and I have a Scrooge from 1980 that's $1,600.
Yeah, but I believe it reprints Carl Barks art, which just seems to be more collectible for a lot of people because he did the Duck right.
Yeah, this is a reprinted story. So even funnier. Like, this isn't even a new story.
Right.
It's not just Uncle Scrooge. It's a reprint. This is actually down 2 slots. This was coming in at number 8 last year. It's coming in at number 10. And if you find this in the pack, you got to keep it in the pack because packs have sold with this issue in there for over $1,000 alone. And this book in lower grade you can find for $200 to $300, as you were mentioning. Some of these are more affordable on the lower grade side.
But really more just obtainable.
Right.
You know, because you can get them at a lower grade. And so I know sometimes the number sounds a little high, but if we're comparing this to like Silver Age and other ages, this is kind of reasonable and obtainable for a lot of people at that price point.
3 other books tying at number 10.
What?
Yes. We have a 4-way tie at number 10. These are the next 3. These are all 35-cent variants. Russ, I think we have another video that we got to make.
We absolutely do. We have to talk more about these 35-cent variants.
All right, so we have Star Wars issues number 2, 3, and 4, 35-cent variants for each, all coming in at $1,600. That's a 7% increase year over year. Wow. All right, so the big thing about these 35-cent variants is that this was at a time that Marvel was testing the waters to see if they could get away with increasing the price. So this was a testing. They only picked certain states to release these issues in to see how they did.
Right.
Thus, lower prints of all these issues, they go for way more money. And when you have comics like Star Wars, these major titles, the sky's the limit. These prices may even be low. It depends on the buyer.
Right.
So you mentioned states. These weren't even released statewide. These were just select individual cities in some bigger states. So you didn't even have a full release. This was a true test of the market. Who can bear it? So you'll have cities Memphis, Toledo, Tuscaloosa, Wilmington, and San Antonio, 5 cities. I mean, to distribute this, that explains to you how rare these can be.
What's interesting is the only way we know of these cities is because there are copies of these with the like store stamps of where the cities are.
Okay.
Like where they were from when they were originally sold.
Very cool.
So coming in at number 8, because we have a tie, a 2-place tie at number 8.
So the first number 8A, we have Giant Size X-Men number 1. And this is deservedly so on the list. You know that this is the second appearance of Wolverine and the first appearance of the full new X-Men team. So we've got Colossus, we've got Storm, we've got Nightcrawler, all of these fantastic ones. It's such a classic cover. You got them all jumping out at you. And I know that this is one of those massive grail books that a lot of people want. That's the reason why we had this as one of our mystery mail call giveaways, because we know that the community demand is there. Now, $1,700 is for a higher grade one. I know we've seen anything graded above a 9 go for many multiples of that, but it's still an affordable-ish key if you're looking for something lower grade. You can definitely get a reader copy or something that's nicer in the $200, $300 range. I've had 4 copies of this come into my shop in the last year, so it's out there. Even if you're searching, even if you're looking at shows, this is definitely a book that is just out there, and it's such a great one.
6% increase year over year. Grade is going to be a big factor here. It's a thicker book. All right. And then what else do we have tied at number 8?
We have Amazing Spider-Man 129.
I cannot buy this book ever again.
Yeah, you know, the last time I remember Tom trying to buy this book, I think he and I had just started doing the comic book thing, and he gave me a call the next morning. He sounded a little bit hungover, and I'm like, dude, what happened? He's like, I think I bought something. Like, what'd you buy? I think I drunk bought an ASM 129, but maybe it's not so bad. And then it showed up, and it was pretty bad.
It was terrible. But that was the book I ended up selling Jeff. Whoa, full
Right,
circle.
it's good.
It all has come back to the table. But, you know, this 129, it's a safe book. I mean, heck, I've been buying 129 since I started like doing some serious collecting. This is a book that moves no matter what.
Right.
All right. Just like a lot of these keys on this list. And this book has been going up year over year since I started collecting. I remember being able to get this book for under $300
Right.
regularly. And then it started creeping up to 5 and then 6. And then the next thing I know is if you want to get like a VF to near mint, like, you know, 9.2, you're going to be paying $1,000 for this book. Now, this book coming in this year at $1,700 in near mint minus. That is not just moving up 2 spots on the list. That's a 13% increase year over year. And this has to do definitely with the Netflix show, even with the changes that have happened. This is going up.
John Bergdahl did do a great job of being Frank Castle the Punisher. And whether you agree or disagree with the changes they made to his origin story, I do think the Netflix series definitely made this one move up higher on the list.
I am so stoked about number 7 on the list because we know that DC is putting out a new show, assuming Teen Titans keeps going the route it's going, and we start to see characters like Doom Patrol. We know that Swamp Thing is on the list.
Yeah, Swamp Thing, House of Secrets 92 is the first appearance of Swamp Thing. That is the next one on this list, okay? And this has been an extremely hot book, and it slept for way too long.
Oh, yeah.
This book was undervalued for decades, in my opinion. So now it's finally getting its due, and it's had huge gains. And it's just an amazing cover by an amazing artist, okay, Bernie Wrightson, and his classic macabre artist as you can find. He did tons of work in House of Secrets, House of Mystery. Amazing. So it's great to see this book here on this list. And really probably next year, I can see this actually higher on the list.
I bet.
But right now, the book in 9.2 is going for $2,400. And that's 33% increase.
Dang. Okay, this is where the list starts getting cranked up. 33% increase. Like this is the stuff that's really worth covering because this is a change. A lot of these books are already been on the list year after year. But when you see an increase like this is a book you got to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
So this was actually one of the earliest books I ever bought, by the way.
Oh, no kidding.
I actually partnered up with a friend of mine, and we actually had to split it. It was signed by Bernie Wrightson on the inside first page. Okay, I was 13. Him and I both spent $100. We earned some money together and split this. And I did not see it since then. And I finally just got it back like 3 years ago or 2 years ago from my friends. Like, do you still have that book, man? I'd love to have it. I'm the collector. You aren't.
Whoa. Do you have it?
And I finally got it from him.
Dude.
And I paid a fair price. He's a friend of mine.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
That's so cool that you got that back.
Oh, tell me. I mean, I thought about that book all the time. I was the reason we bought that book.
Dude, we're
Right.
doing a whole video. If you want to see a video on this book, put your answers in the comment section below. I think that's a story that needs its own thumbnail, and I want to see this book in person. That is so cool.
Yeah, I'll bring it in for sure.
Awesome.
All right. Well, while we're on that same note, let's chat about another childhood favorite memory. We have Scooby Doo coming in at the list at number 6 from 1970, issue number 1. Why is Scooby Doo on the list? I think it's really funny that when I sent this script out to you guys, there's like 14, 15 comic books, 16 with the extras that I thought maybe we can chat about on the cuff. And out of all the books, Scooby Doo was the only one you guys brought up in this like group message. It was like, why is Scooby Doo on the list? Well, it's a really tough book. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like none of the other comics drew up this kind of discussion.
Everything else on the list we knew was going to be there. But yeah, Jeff made a very, very valid point about the Scooby Doo. It is a tough book in any grade, regardless of high grade. Because, you know, Scooby Doo, especially from 1970, it was I think it's a Charlton book.
Right.
And it was one of those things that they didn't make a lot of them. Charlton's paper quality is terrible. I mean, their books are bad. Their production quality.
They're almost always like Ripley's Believe It or Nots and all that kind of stuff.
And then when you've got a kid's book, in addition to that, you know it was not taken care of. And from 1970, it wasn't like everyone had bags and boards and store folios that they walked around with. This was just thrown into a box under their bed.
I have a theory. Okay, so like, why are we bringing up Scooby Doo? Why is Overstreet bringing this up? I mean, is this another case of Vampirella? You know, like, is this supposed to be on this list? Guys, we are seeing this book at Near Mint Minus this year at $2,500. Okay, this is a 25% increase year over year. Here's my theory. Why is Scooby Doo hot? You look up on eBay, you're seeing single-digit Scooby going for $20, $30.
Right.
All right, why is Scooby Doo selling? Because it's the 90s. The kids from the 90s who grew up on like Scooby Doo, Where Are You? And these Cartoon Network shows, they're now hitting their 30s.
Tom, you are so young.
But you know what? the market is deciding. Like,
No,
this is like, these
they
are the
absolutely
collectors who want it. And 25% increase, Scooby Doo making this list, beating out ASM 129. Need I remind you, we were just talking about giant size number 1. This is crazy stuff, and I'm excited to report on Scooby Doo.
Okay, so coming out of Scooby Doo, which is one that we weren't expecting, to one that we absolutely are expecting. Number 5, with a bullet, Green Lantern 76. Now, this is roundly acknowledged as the first Bronze Age book. It's this fantastic Neil Adams cover. It's got Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and the amount of green on this cover is just stunning. When you see this book, it is gorgeous. It is an eye catcher. You see it on the wall. $2,700 still. It hasn't gone up at all, but it hasn't gone down at all. It's a very, very desirable book. They do come in from time to time. You can find them in lower grade. You're still going to be paying in the $400 to $500 range for a low grade one, like a reader copy, but just beautiful one. And it's funny because if you look at all of the Gil Kane stuff before this or the Mike Grell stuff after it, it's worth nothing. I mean, relatively.
This one book.
It's kind of like Green Lantern 76, and then the rest of the Neil Adams run, you know, Speedy's a Junkie, all of those ones, they just have a premium because Neil Adams was at his peak right here.
Yeah.
Strong number 5.
Yeah, and if there is one that you can obtain at the most reasonable prices on this entire list, this is it.
Yeah.
Like on this entire list, this is the book that you can most likely obtain for the most reasonable value.
Yeah, you actually can find them too. Like, we're going to get into some books here. That
Thanks,
you're just
Ryan
like,
Reynolds, for making Green Lantern's books more affordable.
For real.
Yeah.
That's not your fault, Ryan.
It wasn't his fault.
No, it's not. It was the director's fault.
All right, well, unlike Green Lantern 76, this next book on this list, number 4, you're not going to be able to find. And if you do, it very well could be counterfeit. Yep. We have Cerebus, number 1, making this list. This right here, classic independent title, coming in at $2,900. This is a 4% increase year over year. When did this come out? 1977?
Yeah, same as Star Wars, 1977.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, right around there. Okay, so it came out with 2,000 prints.
Mm-hmm.
However, about 400 of those prints were like really badly damaged. And then as much as like 600 others were like kind of messed up. So finding high grade copies of this book for something that's already super low print is tough. Now it's even harder. And with counterfeits known to be on the market, it just makes it that much scarcer, but wanted book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like we discussed in the last video, gobbledygook.
Mm-hmm.
You know, throw it in there, something that can be counterfeited and just kind of scary to get into. But if you do find it, kudos to you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and the early Cerebus was available through Aardvark Van Heim. Dave Sim was selling them from his house, from his printing place. And just a really, really tough book. I got a fantastic run of Cerebus in a couple years ago, and it was like issue number 8 through 300.
So cool.
And it was the first independent comic to hit 300 issues, and that was a massive thing. Dave Sim really, and Gerhard, really spearheaded this for quite some time. But number one is just low print run, and with the damages, it is just a very, very desirable book. Most people will never see one.
Now, there's actually file copies. They call them Sims file copies because he kept a handful for himself, and they make the market from time to time. And they sell for an inflated amount, and CGC puts it on the label.
Yeah, I think I saw a yellow label signed by Dave Sim and said file copy on there.
Very cool. They go for quite a bit. And just like this next one, coming in at number 2, a villain taking the second spot here. Iron Fist, number 14. First appearance of Sabretooth, the 35-cent variant.
So again, keeping in mind that this is the 35-cent variant we're talking about, we said that they were put regionally, and it looks definitely in the southern part of the United States. Sabretooth has been spiking.
Right.
It's not because of that Iron Fist Netflix show that was just canceled. Sabretooth is a popular villain and has been for quite some time. But these 35-cent variants, $4,200. This is one of the largest and most desirable of these 35-cent variants. You can find 35-cent variant Micronauts. You can find 35-cent variants of some other Marvel books that aren't as desirable. This is one that is a grail, and you know people are looking for it. And if you find it, you have found absolute gold.
Yeah, this is actually more rare than those Star Wars we described. I mean, it's issue 14. So you can't think it's like a number 1 or 2.
Right.
So the distribution was less. So this and I think Captain America 212 has a 35-cent variant. And those are the top 2 rarest.
I am so happy you brought up Cap 212 because I have something to talk about Cap 212. Cap 212 happens to not only be one of the rarest 35-cent variants, but Cap 212 happens to be one of the most valuable 35-cent variants and error variants from the Bronze Age. This is a book that didn't make the list that I think is deserving, if not really damn close, that has to be mentioned right around this time as we wind it down, because there is multiple covers of Cap 212. However, one of the 35-cent covers has made it out into the market, and there's only been a couple of them that have been authenticated by CGC, upwards of around 6 in the last few years, without the Marvel Comics group in the bar. So if you find this 35-cent variant of 212, you already found an awesome, very rare book.
Yeah.
But if you find one without that header, you now found not just a rare 35-center, but the rarest error print from the Bronze Age.
Crazy.
Yeah, when I first saw this book, I misbought it because I thought I was buying a 35-cent variant. And I saw a price on one 35-cent variant, and I was like, Cap 212. I was like, holy moly, these 35-cent variants on 212 are huge. And then I go and buy a 35-cent variant online for a deal, and then I realize, oh, that variant of 35 cents didn't have the lettering in that strip above. And then I was like, oh
no.
Misbuy.
If
But-
only you had a show you could watch.
Yeah, if only I...
Hit that like and hit that subscribe button.
Seriously, I had to educate myself by trial and error on a lot of books, and that was one of them.
Another book that I know you know a lot about is Hulk 181.
And this book has seen huge gains, as usual. And a near mint minus copy is selling for $4,200.
Ooh.
That's up 20%.
This book is going up every single year.
When I opened my shop, I think it was an $1,800 book, and that was 6 years ago. So it is doubled since I bought this or more. And the quote I keep hearing from people is, buy Hulk 181 because it's going better than the stock rate year over year. Like if you compare it to the stock market year over year, yeah, a 20% increase. Oh my God.
How many people do you know like that Hulk 181's on their buy list right now? Because you have your store customers, and then you have your customers that you meet all across the world from your travels.
I feel like anybody who collects comics wants a copy of this book in their collection.
How many people in your head, just off the cuff, do you, like if you had a Hulk 181 mid-grade, how many people do you think just like you could contact to have that book moved?
Oh, 1,000?
Right?
Oh, there's a ton of people, but they don't want to pay what the market is. And every year when you see this go up 20%, you're like, hey man, I know last year your budget was $500. Well, it doubled in price. Is your budget doubling, or do you want a lower grade book? I can get you a coverless one.
Yeah, it's crazy how many people it's like they're getting the books, and I'm like, man, they're paying for really low grade copies. Like now you can see people buying them without the value stamp, and they don't care.
No, they're okay with that.
Do you
now.
remember that?
That
Like,
that used
that
to
book
be
never sold.
Nope.
No,
I mean, if it did, it was like what, $150, $200, $300 for a value stampless book.
yeah, I remember seeing like books with no value stamp, and I was like, "What's going on? Why are these going for such high numbers? Are people messing with the books or what?" It makes no sense, but it's like that's the way you have to buy it to obtain it. Because I think I saw like 2 5s just recently going for over $1,000. I mean, that's insane.
It
crazy.
really, really is. I think at one point in time, and this is probably around 2012, so 6, almost 7 years ago, Jeff had given me a Hulk 181 Mark Jeweler variant with a ripped cover. And did it have the value stamp or not?
Probably. I try to only get value stamp.
Okay,
ones.
but it was $500 was what we were trying to get for a Mark Jeweler variant of this, and we couldn't get it. And I had to give it back to him because it just didn't sell.
Can you imagine now?
Oh,
Well, a Mark Jeweler of 181.
It's
Oh my
another
god!
video we got to make. I already made one, but we got to do another one.
I wonder if Jeff still has it.
Oh, Jeff, do you
He
still
does.
Yes. All right.
Good.
I'm stoked. We
You
have
gotta
so
bring that
many.
in.
I'll bring
you
it
gotta
in.
bring that in. We have so
I'll
many
bring it in.
comics to see. Okay, so if Hulk 181 hit number 2, tied for number 2. All right. And this, by the way, it moved up 3 spots from last year. So it's not just moving up aggressively, it's moving up like slots aggressively too.
Oh yeah, no, it's moving a good amount.
What took the number 1 slot?
Well, before we go to the number 1 spot, what I'd like to do is let people know that you need to like and subscribe to this video because we are actually giving away a reprint of Hulk 181. Now, this is a fantastic opportunity to read it before you go out and actually buy your low-grade Hulk 181 missing its value stamp. And I do want to let people know that we have the reprint of Gobbledygook, which we gave out in our Copper Age video.
Oh.
And the winner from that video is White Dog 1475. Make sure you contact Tom. Make sure you contact us, and we will get that out to you as quickly as possible.
Yeah, hit the description to find out how to get in touch with us. And thank you so much for commenting, liking, and subscribing. White Dog 1475. And make sure to like and subscribe this video so you can be entered to get this Hulk 181 reprint. And let's chat about the number 1 on the list today. We have Star Wars number 1, the 35-cent variant, the Grail. This is it. And it does deserve to beat Hulk 181 on the list.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of all there has to be said about this because we already talked about the 35-cent variants. We know these Star Wars are scarce. This is low. This is desirable. It was regional. And $11,000, and it's a 10% increase over year. And you're not seeing these in the wild. Any of the ones that are graded, a lot of the ones that I've actually seen on eBay have the red label, which is the old school CGC label. So they were graded over a decade ago by CGC. So they're the same ones in the wild. There aren't more of these cropping up in garages somewhere. There are very few of them on the census, and there will continue to be very few of them on the census.
I know this is like for a Bronze Age comic book. There's dealers that I know that like they exclusively collect gold, but they're Star Wars fans, and this is their Grail.
The one, yeah.
This is the one. They're like, And when I first started collecting, this was the first book, because I mean, we've all had those moments where it's like you think you have something that you don't. This was my first moment where like I opened it up and I'm like, I have a Star Wars number 1, and I pull it to Star Wars number 1, and it's like it's worth $35,000. Oh my god, and Ross. Guess what? It's not worth. Yeah. So what you need to look out for is, for one, it's a 35-cent variant, but there are all these 35-cent variants of the Star Wars
They're
run.
reprints.
There are also reprints that are 35 cents, and they're not the same.
Well, it's a very specific way you need to tell. It was a square box with 35 cents square, because there were some other shapes like diamond, but the square box 35 cents, and at the bottom there's a barcode.
Right.
So those are the 2 connecting points you need to look for to authenticate a 35-cent variant.
Understand that a lot of the reprints that were 35-cent reprints were available in multi-packs, kind of like the Whitman Uncle Scrooge, and you can get Star Wars 2, 3, 4 in a multi-pack. There's no barcode. There's a white box down below. Inside, in the fine print, it actually says this is a reprint of a previously shown story. On the front cover, next to Luke, it'll even say reprint. There's a lot of signs. It's very, very easy to tell whether you actually have the real one or you actually have a reprint, because there are hundreds of thousands of reprints out there, and that's not a low number. They printed the death of these first 4 books.
We do appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for watching this video. We're going to be covering over the next few weeks the rest of the hot comic books of all time. Join us next week as we hit the Silver Age comics. And as always,
Geek
Responsibly.
Enough said. Look at this. All these books are giveaway books that I just have left on the podcast table so I don't mix them up and accidentally send them off into the mail call. Link in the bio to sign up. But yeah, we're giving away a lot of books every single week, so make sure to be watching our videos. Comment. People are getting these. We want to send them to you.